Here we go. So now we are looking at the homepage of WorkCanvas. I don't want to spend too much time here because I want us to have a lot of time on the interesting, fun stuff. But just for you to know, this is the perfect place for you to manage your teams. This is where we manage permissions and different access grants that we want to give specific teammates to specific canvases. So it's done by the notion of teams and projects. So as you can see, I'm connected to the monday.com team. That's my team. This is the default section in which all of the canvases are being saved to as a default. So you will find all of my canvases here. These are the ones that I've created. And then there's a lot of canvases created by other people at Monday. Now, this is kind of like I think, pretty close to what you are familiar with in terms of a workspace, the terminology in Monday. And then if I want to create a specific area in which only limited number of people can access the canvases, for example, I've created a project. This is a project that only I am a part of, meaning no one else can actually access the canvases that I've created inside this project. So the projects are basically like folders inside my team. So I can find different projects for different needs, if it's for myself or for my teammates. I can easily invite more members to this project that I'm working on. And then once they're invited, I can very easily manage their permissions inside this project. So I can decide if anyone joining will have viewing or editing permissions inside this project of mine. So this is in terms of permissioning. Let's move on to the fun stuff. I think the best way to get started with WorkCanvas is always by going to our amazing template library. So we have over hundreds of templates, kind of, I would say, split into the different categories that are all built around work use cases. So we have project management, and we have strategy and planning, and we have brainstorming and diagramming, really lots of amazing use cases. And this is, this is always the place to get started with. I think in theory, like for every use case they use monday.com for, in theory, there's going to be a tiny use case that will go hand in hand in WorkCanvas. Okay, so this is just kind of like a bit about the template library. Once I want to select the template, I can always, preview it before selecting. And if it's according to what I was needing, I can use this template and I will be inside my canvas. All right, so now we are inside the canvas with the template that I've selected. On the left side of the screen, you will find all of the building blocks that you would expect to see in a digital whiteboard solution. Okay, so for example, we have the abilities to add multiple templates on the same canvas. So for example, I can go, let's take a brainstorming one. I can use this template and I can go to a different area of the canvas and I can place it here and I can resize it. So this is putting multiple templates on the same canvas. We have text blocks. We have sticky notes in different colors. By the way, these are all sticky notes as well. So basically every template on WorkCanvas is comprised of a combination of building blocks. Now I can very easily connect between these sticky notes, and you can see how everything adjusts accordingly. We have different types of connectors as well. So we have the curved one, the straight one, or the elbow one. We can also add text inside these connectors. So if we're building out a flowchart, it's really easy to add text. I can add text in the sticky note as well. So I'd say this is a sticky note. And then I can change the formatting options as well. So I can change the font and I can change the size and do all sort of great things. We've actually also recently added all the different shortcuts to make it easier to create these flowcharts on the go. So you can see when I press the arrow, it just knows it's kind of like completes in the same distancing as before. We also have a bunch of keyboard shortcuts. So if I were to do Command D, it's going to easily duplicate the shape or object that I'm working on the canvas as well. Let's move on. We also have lots of different shapes. So if I want to take this star shape, let's make it a bit bigger, and I can, color it in different ways, and I can connect stickies to shapes as well, very easily. Right, so this is shapes. We actually have a bunch of shapes. We have all the flowchart related ones and the BPMN, the business process shapes as well, for any of you who might be using these type of shapes. Mind maps is a really cool way to get your ideas out on the canvas. So if I'm brainstorming and I need to think out loud, I can just have my idea. And whenever I press enter, you can see that more and more nodes are being added to my beautiful mind map. I can then visualize it in different ways. But this is a very, very common practice for brainstorming, either alone or together as a team. Drawing, so we can draw really cool stuff. And actually, when there's a lot of people on the canvas, the collaborative experience is really, really off the chart. So you can see everybody drawing in real time. You don't need to wait for them to remove their hand from the mouse for you to see what they did. And while I'm at it, talking about the real-time collaboration on the canvas, so I can show you that we actually have our very own kind of Zoom. Okay, so it's not a Zoom integration; it's our very own video conferencing tool. So we can, instead of like joining Zoom, switching tabs, sharing screen, we can just all be here, collaborate, get stuff done, and once we're done, we can just turn off the video chat. We have timers. If we're doing, daily sessions, we literally have people doing webinars, workshops, everything on the canvas together. Voting sessions, we can actually make any object on the canvas votable. So that's another really fun, engaging activity that could be done on the canvas, and many more. Let's move on. We have commenting, which is tied back to monday.com. So again, it's like really easy to find people in my account as opposed to having different user bases in different systems. And last but not least, before getting to the interesting stuff about the Monday integration, we have the concept of frames. So, this is an infinite canvas. It's really easy to get lost inside this beautiful canvas in which I've just built out. And frames are a really nice way for me to, one, be able to find this information. So I can, whenever I click on the right frame, it's going to take me to the data which I'm looking for. But in addition, I can also present the information inside these frames as slides. So I can really, in a seamless way, create beautiful presentations on the canvas itself. All right, now with all this kind of like build up and setup, let's get to the interesting stuff, because we believe at WorkCanvas that being a digital whiteboard is it's nice, it's great, but being a digital whiteboard that natively integrates to where we actually work, that's where things become interesting. That's where we unlock a lot of value and so many different use cases. So let's see a few ways in which we can utilize the integration. The first one is by clicking on the Monday logo right here in the bottom left corner of the screen. So whenever I click on it, I can decide to import items from any board that I want. Okay, so let's go with my beautiful retail demo board, which I've prepared ahead of time. And just to show you, this is the board that I'm pulling information from. So we have like mock data from the retail industry. So we have a bunch of clothing items. We have their collection as a status column inside this board as well. We have some text describing the item itself. And last but not least, we even have an image of the actual clothing item as well. Now let's go back to WorkCanvas. After integrating this board, basically I'm going to see all of the different items inside this board right here on the left side panel. And whenever I drag and drop these tasks or items to my WorkCanvas, they become native canvas elements for me to work on. Okay, so let's see what we can do. First of all, is I can easily play around with which fields I want to pull in from Monday. So I can really easily add and remove fields the way I see fit. Another really cool feature is that we also support the actual file column inside Monday. So for any type of visual collaboration, let it be retail, like we're seeing here, marketing, mood boards, you name it, like any type of visual collaboration could be really nicely done on the canvas. And now what we have is basically we have all of those regular whiteboarding building blocks that we just went over in the first 10 minutes, but now I can use them on top of Monday related data. So for example, I can create these flowcharts from this Monday related data. I can add my drawings, can create this arrow, and I'll add a shape, and I'll add a sticky notes with my notes, and I'll say this is nice, and I'll put it inside a frame. And now all of a sudden I'm able to create presentations on top of Monday related data in a way that we weren't able to do so beforehand. So we actually we have lots of Monday customers that they want to present the information that they've been working on inside Monday to let it be customers, external stakeholders, colleagues, you name it. But what they do is they take screenshots of what they did on Monday and they paste it inside PowerPoint or Excel. And WorkCanvas really bridges that gap in a way that we can now create these presentations, but in a way that actually integrates into Monday, meaning we don't need to multiply the work, thanks to the two-way sync that we have between Monday and WorkCanvas. So this is fully operational, meaning if I, for example, want to change this baby light blue strappy midi dress 456, I'll change it to dark, even though it's not dark. And I'll add some exclamation marks and I'll change it to 1, 2, 3. And I want to change the status from October to September. I'm now going to go to the board and you can see that it was changed to dark and all those changes that I've made to the text. And we can see that the status has been updated to September. And this goes the other way around. So if I change anything here in Monday, it will be reflected inside WorkCanvas. So now we have a kind of like a presentation which is always up to date. We don't need to update Monday once we update the presentation, or vice versa, update the presentation after we've made a change in Monday. So this is really like saving a lot of time, a lot of work, and also enables us to create presentations in a way that we were not able to do so beforehand. Last thing I will mention, and maybe this will be a great pausing point for questions, but I can also actually color code the different items that I'm pulling in from Monday. So I can make this one yellow, and I can actually decide to color code this one by the actual status in Monday. So you can see I can actually color code it based on the integration as well. You see you got the green color from the January status column. So we can make this very visual, very engaging. That's also a possibility. Last thing before we stop for questions is to mention that we can also mix and match from different boards on the same canvas. So if I'm interested, I can actually add more and more boards and drag in items from different boards to the same canvas. Okay, so this is another great feature that has been extremely useful for some of our customers. All right, let's pause here for questions if there are any. Okay, I think we're good, right, Rob?
Yep, no questions coming through.
All right, let's move on. Maybe I'm doing a good job.
So far, so good.
So far, so good. All right. So we talked about. Okay.
Sorry, guys, to interrupt. We do have a question from Andrew.
Yeah.
When selecting what fields are viewable for each item, it's customizable for each item, but editing a sub-item field edits all the sub-items. Don't know if that's...
Yeah, so actually, I understand the question. So we actually support sub items as well. So let me pull this up. You can see that for items that have sub items in them, I can click on the show sub item, and then we basically have an item card for the sub item itself. So now we can work on the sub items. And by the way, if you look at the breadcrumbs here, we basically, this is the name of the board, this is the name of the item, and then this is the indication that we're working on a sub item, and this is the title of this sub item. And whenever I click on it, if I were to click on it, for example, it's going to take me to this actual sub item that we are working on. So we are always in context. All right. So I hope that clarifies that it's not just like whatever you do is not for all the sub items. You can treat every sub item as an item. All right. So let's continue. We talked about bringing items into Canvas from Monday and creating these presentations that we can, or just working on these items in a very unstructured visual way. But now I wanted to touch on what if we want to go the other way around. Okay, so when you think about project management in the broadest sense, basically we at WorkCanvas we look at it as three main pillars. We have the planning phase for each project, right? We don't just get started with a populated board. We need to plan out the project and figure out what's actually going to be included in this project. Then we have the execution phase of the project, which is all about Monday, right? We execute all of our projects inside monday.com. And then finally, we have the presentation layer, like presenting the actual work that we've been working on. That's the third pillar. So I think the third pillar, the presentation part, is what we started talking about in the past few minutes or so. And now I want us to touch on the planning phase. Like, how do we, planning naturally happens in an unstructured way. We usually do it in a collaborative way. Uh, I'm sure some teams out there that meet in person might do that even on a, on a physical whiteboard inside the office. But this is something that naturally happens together in an unstructured way. So let's imagine that we're filling out these sticky notes together on what's going to comprise of our next project, what's important for us to get done. And after we have this brainstorming session, we figure out that we need to build a great website. I don't know, we're for the next project that we're working on, this is something that's really crucial for our project. Now, after we finish filling out these sticky notes, we want the important ones to be a part of the actual project that we're working on Monday. So what we've built out is the ability for you to do a right click on the sticky note, and then you will find at the bottom we have the create Monday item option. Once I click on it, we actually have two options. We can either create an item or even a sub item from this sticky note. Let's go with item. Now I'll need to choose which board I want to put the sticky note in, so I can stick with the retail demo board, which we've been working on. I'll choose the relevant group. I'll choose the status. Again, this is pulling in the status based on the board that I am pushing this sticky note into. Let's go with September. Create the item. And just like that, I've just translated this offline simple sticky note into live Monday data that we can now work on. So I can resize this. We have all of the different columns from Monday. And if we go to the board, you will see that here it is. We need to build a great website with the status that I've chosen. So no more do we need to plan our projects in other tools and then duplicate the work of actually moving all that information into Monday. With 2 clicks of a button, we can now translate these sticky notes into actual Monday items or tasks. And it is important to mention that we can also work in scale. So if I were to select, multi-select all of these together, and create an item from these 20, and throw these 24 items all at once instead of doing it one by one. So we can work at scale to not do this like tedious manual work. Any questions about this part? I heard a gling.
Perfect timing. Yes, there is a question. So Andrew's asked, can we create a form through the canvas?
So not yet. I'd be curious to like hear the use case. Like, how do you envision a form being integrated to like a canvas? Like, what would be the use case? But maybe we can take it afterwards. But I think in general, like the roadmap is all about integrating more tightly between Monday and WorkCanvas. So I do envision a time in which, like, yes, forms, docs, you name it, will be a part of Canvas that you can actually work on, either like having a canvas inside docs and having forms inside canvas and all these great things. So definitely something that we will get to at some point in time.
Cool. Thank you. Thanks, Andrew.
Anything else? Or all right. So okay, so let's move on. I will say, like, these are, I would say, like the main pillars of the integration. These are like the base for what you can do. And on top, we've built out like lots of more tying use cases that are deeply integrated. So I'll do like quick hits on some really nice stuff that you can also achieve. But just for you to know, these are like the basics of the integration. One thing that is important to mention, that you can also work on WorkCanvas directly from Monday. So for example, in my retail demo board, as an example, I've created a dashboard view with an embedded WorkCanvas in this dashboard view. So envision a world in which you could have like a WorkCanvas per Monday board, so we can have everything in context. And now I can either consume or even work on this directly from within Monday. So sometimes we can go to different, like we can switch tabs and go to Canvas. Sometimes we can work directly from Monday. It's definitely depending on what we are trying to achieve. But just for you to know that this is available. Now let's finish with some really like kind of quick hits of cool stuff that that you can accomplish as well. So we have some really cool use cases. The first one is we kind of invented like a new category of templates. So like for those of you in the crowd who might be familiar with other whiteboarding tools, yes, there's template libraries with plenty of templates. For us, what we did is we made up a category which is called sync templates, which is essentially is the combination of a Monday board and a WorkCanvas template put together. So for example, let's go with project follow-up and let's put it in a different area on the canvas. And now what's happening is it's building a Monday board from scratch for me in my workplace. And it's going to be filled with Monday items that are kind of like mock data for me to change, just like any other templates. But the Monday items are already going to be placed visually on the WorkCanvas template that I can start working on right away. So for example, this is one use case of a project follow-up. So we have like a project timeline with a Gantt. These Gants are already, you can see, filled with Monday items that I can move around and change their dates. By the way, if I click on this, this will take me to the board in which you'll be able to see this data that was just made up for this specific template. So we have project 1 to 17 with different statuses and risk levels that I can change and alter. Back to here, this template also includes a milestone tracker, which again is all tied with Monday items that I can change. It's just placeholders for me to move around. I can change the dates. And last but not least, this template includes a milestone calendar, so we can, move these milestones around, depending on what we're doing and make it fit to the project that you're working on. Again, this is one use case out of many others that are included in this sync templates categories. Something else which is really cool, and again, we're doing these quick hits right before I wrap this up. So we have the timeline template. And this gives you two options. You saw, like, I looked for the timeline template, and once I use this template, I can either do from like the start from scratch option. This means it's just going to be like a standalone whiteboard, shapes and stickies types of timeline that I can work on. But I also have an option to connect this timeline to a Monday board. So let's look at that example. I can now choose a board. I'm going to look for a board that has dates. Let's do, I don't know, projects follow up. And I'll choose a column, which is the date column, and I'll check off this live sync box, and I'm going to import this board to Canvas. And let's see what's going to happen now. Let's see where I'm going to put this. Let's put it here. And now what you will see is that I've just translated this board. I've created an automatic visualization of the board that I've just selected on a visual timeline. So it actually took the dates from the date column, and you can see all these Monday items were just imported to this canvas. And now I can basically start working on this directly from here. So I can change the dates, I can move things around. And what's important to mention is that whenever I make a change on this visual timeline, the changes are being also made to your Monday board. So if I change a date here, it will be reflected in Monday. And if I change a date in Monday, it will be reflected on this timeline as well. So this is something which is kind of like relatively new, but we're really excited about. And last but not least, before we finish up and we have last chances for questions, is we also have a way to import items that scales from Monday. For this, we have the concept of a synced card stack. Okay, so we have card stack, we have a regular one and a synced one. Let's demonstrate what we can do here. So I'll place it here, and we have a synced card stack, which I can basically connect to any board that I want. So let's go here and choose a board. Let's see. Okay, let's do Canvas sprints. Okay. And now I can basically define a condition. So I can say whenever the column status is of value working on it, then I want to see it inside this card stack. And now let's see what happens. You can see that this is integrated to my Monday board, and it automatically populated 30 items with the status of working on it and visualize them here inside this card stack. I can now give this a title, and I can say this is working on it. And of course, whenever anything changes in Monday to the status of working on it, this will automatically reflect inside this card stack. I can now change the order. I can drag things out and start working on them here on the canvas. I can see everything in one place. But again, this is a way for you to work at scale instead of like dragging items or multi-selecting them one by one. All right, again, this is just kind of like to open your heads. This is the tip of the iceberg. The beautiful thing about WorkCanvas, I think, in my opinion, even though I'm not very objective, is that it could be used for so many different people in so many different use cases and so many different teams. I'm sure all of you seeing this presentation, probably all of you are thinking about different use cases than other ones here in the crowd. Again, that's I see it as something beautiful, and hopefully this was helpful in kind of like opening your head to what can be achieved with the power of connecting a digital whiteboard.